End of 1943. Rommel is sent to northwestern France to take charge of the defense of the Atlantic Wall. From that moment on, German propaganda sent the following message to its population: with Rommel in France, we can sleep peacefully. Despite his massive retreat across North Africa, and his final failed attack on Tunisia, his enormous reputation and fame remained very high. The first thing Rommel did when he visited the beaches of northwestern France was to criticize the poor work of defensive fortifications that had been carried out in the area. Waiting for an invasion that would take place in a few months at the most, Rommel made an effort to speed up the construction processes. Although the extension of the French, Danish, and Norwegian coasts is thousands of kilometers, the most likely areas of the Allied landing were the Pas-de-Calais, the Normandy region, or the French South. As it is evident, it was in these first two in which the Germans put greater resources. Having made this introduction, let's see what was the real role of Rommel during the Battle of Normandy, and whether or not it was decisive. As we all know, the main contribution of the old Desert Fox to the defensive strategy against the Allied invasion was to want to position the armored units in small groups, near the beaches. With this, he wanted his troops to have a very powerful reaction capacity from the first moment of landing. In addition, his intention was that the Allied aircraft could not attack these panzer units during the entire journey that they would have to make if they were located in a more distant rear. On the other hand, his direct superior, this being Rundstedt, was in favor of the opposite. He wanted the Allies to penetrate and spread widely throughout French territory, to later move on to strong attacks, thus taking advantage of the superior German tactics. As we will see later, once the attempt to reject the invasion on the beaches, as Rommel wanted, failed, Rommel would bet on Rundstedt's strategy, but it was too late. In any case, it was clear that no strategy was better than another, as both have their strengths and weaknesses, and strong risks had to be taken. To give an example, we have to point out that during the final phase of the war on the Eastern Front, the German army was totally annulled, by placing its armored units in an area very close to the front line. On the other hand, the strategy of letting the enemy maneuver widely, with the intention of launching a fully planned counterattack, also often proved wrong. Be that as it may, Hitler did not satisfy either Rommel or Rundstedt, and ordered them to adopt a middle ground. Thus, when the landing began, there were units that were close to the beaches and suffered its consequences, and others that were very far away, and that also suffered its consequences when they tried to reach them. The next question we must ask ourselves now is, what was Rommel's role in Normandy, once it became clear after the first 48 hours that it was going to be impossible to repel the invasion? What strategy did he follow when weak counterattacks against the Allied beachheads failed? Was it his determining role in the German defense of the Normandy region that lasted almost 2 months? Well, let's go see it. When we think of Rommel, the first thing we usually think of is risky and brilliant maneuvers, for which he was characterized during the Battle of France or in North Africa. However, in Normandy he could not do anything but send troops to the most critical points of the front, acting like a firefighter trying to put out the fire. Montgomery's intelligence officer would later say that in Normandy, no outstanding performance was seen from Rommel, and German operations were not more brilliantly managed than usual. Although Rommel tried his best, and put all his efforts into his mission, he couldn't do much more or less than any other commander could have done. With a trickle of reinforcements that was getting less and less, and a total lack of supplies, the only thing he could decide was where to put a small patch, so that the Allies did not break the line at one point of the front or another. Another issue that has been talked about a lot is Rommel's absence in Normandy, just on the day of the invasion. With Rommel there from the start, would the outcome have been different? Many wonder. The opinion of different analysts such as Max Hastings regarding this question is that perhaps Rommel's presence could have motivated the troops a little more during the German counterattacks in the first few hours, but apart from this totally unquantifiable element, the result would not have been very different. It should be noted here that the German army was always characterized by the great freedom of action and maneuver of field commanders, and this was demonstrated in Normandy with the intervention of Meyer himself with the 12th Panzer Division of the Waffen-SS. Another decision that could have been made and was never made was to quickly dispatch the German units of Army Group G to the south of France, or the troops of the German 15th Army garrisoning the Calais area. However, due to Allied deception plans, primarily Operation Fortitude, the top German generals in the area, including Rommel, were in favor of continuing to keep strong troops there, because they basically bought into the Allied deception operation. Subsequently, attempts were made to believe that this decision, as well as others that ultimately turned out to be wrong, were provoked with all the bad intentions by the conspirators of the future July 20th attack against Hitler. However, this is far from being the case, as the different generals acted in the best possible way to contain the Allies, with the information and resources they had. In summary, we can say that after a few days, the German generals who were aware of the dire situation in which they found themselves, lost faith, and continued fighting with methods totally contrary to their instincts and training, not being able to do anything else thing to send their few troops to the most critical points of the front. At this point, and this being the type of combat that would take place in the region for 2 months, the direction of one general or another did not matter, because in addition to being tied hand and foot when it came to wanting to carry out a great intrepid operation, they also did not have the resources to carry it out. Thus, in answering the initial question, Rommel's role during the battle was not relevant because any other minimally trained German commander would have done exactly the same, given the difficult circumstances in which Germany was, in which already there was no room for creativity and operational originality. And what do you think? Do you think that more could have been done than was done? Do you think that without Rommel, the German front would have collapsed much sooner? We left you in the description some programs in which we analyze what was the main German mistake in Normandy, or the treatment that both sides gave to the prisoners of war during this battle. And well, the program ends here. Thank you all very much, especially the sponsors who make this possible. Subscribe and share this video if you liked it, and see you in the next program. See you soon.